A New York City police officer is in critical condition and another is stable after being attacked by a man with a hatchet yesterday outside of a bus station. Two other officers on the scene shot and killed 32-year-old Zale Thompson. A female bystander was also rushed to the hospital after being struck by a police bullet. Authorities are investigating a possible link between this attack and the soldier killed by a terrorist near the Canadian Parliament on Wednesday. They say that extremists have called for assaults on military and police officers. That is awful. Also in New York City, preliminary tests say a doctor who recently returned to New York from West Africa has tested positive for Ebola. Craig Spencer reported a high fever yesterday and was rushed to the new isolation ward at Bellevue Hospital in Manhattan. He is also being treated for malaria and being tested for malaria. Spencer was actually volunteering with Doctors Without Borders in Guinea. 3 people who have had contact with Spencer have been isolated, including his fiance. But there is some good news to report on the Ebola front. Dallas nurse Amber Vincent is now Ebola-free. She had contracted the disease while caring for Ebola patient Thomas Duncan. Now, this story. The University of North Carolina is dealing with the largest academic fraud scandal in NCAA history. An investigation revealed that for nearly 2 decades, over 3,000 students, yes, 3,000 students, half of them basketball and football players, were urged to take courses that required no class time, no professor, and only a single term paper graded by an administrative assistant. The African American Studies Department was particularly notorious for handing out A's and B's. 9 staffers have been fired or disciplined, and the NCAA will now determine whether to take more action. Some are saying the university's lack of commitment to educate black student athletes and the cynical choice of Afro-American studies used for the bogus classes implicates racism. Back to our panel, Ray Baker with Ray Baker Media, Lauren Victoria Burke, managing editor of Politic365.com, and Jarvis Stewart, chairman and managing partner of Ian Reed LLC. To say that it might have some tones of racism is just a little bit, to me, of an understatement. Yeah. It is mostly African-American college athletes going to African-American studies classes headed up by 2 African-Americans, to which, ironically, no white administrators or management or even the president knew about it. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, obviously, first of all, the only reason that UNC was interested in these students in the first place is because they could bounce a ball or run a football anyway. They're not interested in their education. So obviously, they're not. When you're not interested in somebody's education and you're bringing in over $600 million to these schools in some cases, it's kind of like, who cares about whether
education's ancillary,
yeah,
right?
So education takes a backseat to this anyway. And that's really the embarrassment here, that we accept this. They're basically using these kids for profit. They're using these kids to make money. And this incident highlights that, obviously.
Sure, but using the African American Studies Department and these two, one gentleman who was the chair of the department and then his sort of administrative assistant, were the ones that they are putting the blame on for these sham classes.
They ran this entire thing.
Possible? Nobody knew.
Here's the thing. You know, we saw after Penn State how university administrators did a terrible job at transparency. One of the things, the #1 rule in crisis communication, crisis management, is that you have to tell the truth very slowly. What they did is they completely ignored the whistleblower 5 years ago. If I'm the provost, if I'm the university president, if I'm anyone, since you know what, if they're saying it, if this young woman is saying that there's a problem, let's pause, do an internal investigation and figure it out.
An 18-year problem.
An 18-year problem.
I mean,
they completely blew it off. So now they're trying to get the toothpaste back in the tube by trying to explain what happened. It's too late. It's the department and the university has a cloud over its head. And unfortunately, as you look at university budgets across the country, the programs that are being cut the most are African American, Hispanic studies, et cetera, which, you know, in this case, you know, I don't know how they're going to move forward on
Yeah,
this.
I mean, what should happen? I mean, what should the NCAA do during this time? There were 3 basketball championships, 93, 05, and one other year, I think it was 2009. 2009.
That's exactly right.
Do you take those championships away? I mean, it doesn't really hurt the students that played in those championships, but it would tarnish the school.
The NCAA probably, to be completely honest, should not take action to do anything in a punitive way against the University of North Carolina, because that'd be hypocrisy at its finest point. The NCAA is based on the work of exploitation, as we've already outlined here. The former and initial executive director of the NCAA even compared the way that men's basketball and football is being applied across the United States to plantation politics. And finally, we just simply have to be quiet and learn from our ancestors. In the 1920s, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, at Yale no less, said he is worried that football will now drive the school.
Wait, but are you saying that the
NCAA
NCAA shouldn't take any action against the university?
Well, here's why. It's because it's the pot calling the kettle black if the NCAA were to do that.
But still, that's like saying that the NBA shouldn't have done anything with Donald Sterling. I mean, the NBA has inherent racism as well. They have to do something.
No, okay, and again, I'll accept the pushback, but I firmly don't believe the NCAA should be the one who's doing anything.
So who should?
If there's going to be something that should be done, I think first we have to, I would love to see an organization of athletes. Some time ago, last football season, APU, All Players United, came together to try to organize around the unionization of college athletes. Right. I would like to see the athletes from Northwestern University who participated come to North Carolina.
So that's going to be a problem for them. They don't have real degrees, so I mean, that may be a slightly a problem. I kind of understand what you're saying, but the NCAA being the governing body over there has got to do something. And hypocritical or not,
is going to suffer.
Absolutely.
Who do you punish and then how?
So
how do you hit them?
You hit them in the pocket. You suspend the program.
What they care about, money.
That's fair. No, that's fair. But if we're going to do that, then we have to do it in mass and just dismiss UNC's complete athletic department for at least 5 years.
What would be wrong with that? What would be wrong with that?
I mean, but are we willing to go that far? Are we willing to go that far?
In the pocketbook.
Listen, many a school has had a basketball scandal. University of Miami, other have had to have their programs cut down. Is it unfair to the athletes that thought that they were going to go there and they, would have scholarships? Yes.
The idea of the student athlete.
There has to be some.
The idea of the student athlete is nonsense anyway. We all understand that.
Right.
These people are at these schools to make the school money. So the idea that we're hurting the athletes.
Yeah.
Hold
on one second. I gotta go. But we will come back. I know. So much to talk about. The rise and fall of Redwood. It's the true story of the once successful Baltimore restaurant that's loaded with takeaways for future entrepreneurs. Owner and author Rod Womack joins us to discuss next. Plus, Tracy Ellis Ross, Kerry Washington, Venus Williams, and Jill Scott are all hanging out with Carolyn Clark on the new show Women of Power. We'll give you a preview. And sassy and hilarious actress and comedian Coco Brown talks about her role in the long-running stage play Beauty Shop. Hit me up with your thoughts on Twitter @News1 or @Mo Ivory or on our News1 Facebook page.